Today's guest is Nipissing First Nation Chief Scott McLeod. Welcome, Scott.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dave.
Wow.
Pleasure to be here.
It's an honor to have you here for my second guest, because we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah, so I'm a little upset that I'm second, but...
Comedy's first, man. Comedy's first, I'm sorry. Although I know your family's funnier than most.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to take that, but yeah.
We met back when you actually were working for the Shinabec Ontario Fisheries Resource Centre, and that was based out of the South Wing basement where I had the Shinabec News with the
That's
Union
right.
of Ontario Indians.
Yeah, that seems like a lifetime
Was that
ago.
95, 96, something like that?
I believe, it was around the mid-90s there, yeah.
And before that, you had actually worked for the MNR a bit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I worked as a fisheries technician for the assessment unit on Lake Nipissing for the Ministry of Natural Resources.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a story where you were actually working for the MNR doing fisheries assessment in the Callander South Shore area when that flotilla of drunks came out to make sure you weren't Indians stealing their fish, and I think the Nugget did a big piece on that one.
yeah, and I think that that was one that was kind of highlighted, in the media, and but there was actually several times where not necessarily belligerent drunks coming up, but a lot of people coming up and checking, and there was a lot of contentious environments about fishing back then, and
you've seen it from all sides. Right?
I did really. It was I was in a unique situation, especially when in the years that I started for the Ministry of Natural Resources as just like a student.
Yeah.
That was the era of Mike Harris being the Minister of Natural Resources and setting up cameras on the telephone posts in my community. And undercover
Is it any better?
officers.
Is it any better than it was?
Yeah, it's we've moved a long way from those days. Mind you, we're still faced with many challenges.
You're kind of getting it from your own members now too. You've seen a whole different situation.
I think that's can be contributed to the fact that of the past dealings and history that we've had.
Yeah.
It's that lingering memory of how things were back in the 80s, 90s. Well, even before that, the history is not
it doesn't go away.
Very
History
rosy
doesn't go away.
one. No,
yeah.
And what I try to explain to people on both sides, governments change, the people within the government change, attitudes change, and we got to pick those opportunities when we need to create relationships.
Someone asked me to ask you about leprechauns. I'm not sure why.
Yeah. So I guess I offended the leprechaun race out there, but I was just referring.
I'm half Irish, though.
Yeah, referring to a joke, a meme that was posted referring to our new Minister of Indigenous Affairs that in the recent cabinet shuffle as comparing to a Doogie Howser-looking leprechaun.
Oh. Nice. That's why. Okay. You got Scottish blood in you too, eh?
Oh, God, yeah.
So you're allowed to.
And probably Irish. And, well, the thing is, Irish is not a race, and neither is leprechaun, right?
Yeah.
So, and actually, the seriousness of it, though, is the fact that, in the time of the signing of the treaties, Ireland was part of the Crown, and this same Crown is the one that are responsible for treating our Indigenous people in terrible situations such as residential school and a lot of things in between then and now. And really, if a meme is going to ruffle some feathers and be taboo about politicians who are open to to satire, I just say, well, sorry, but it's not as bad as some of the things that happen to the Indigenous people of Canada. So
suck it up.
Suck it up.
Right on. Really, every day people are looking for hope. So. And there's a little bit of hope out there that there is these little wins are adding up to something. So give me an example that where you see that either the react something that's going well because people feel good and they have hope.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. A lot of these little wins are a mosaic of a winning picture for Indigenous people, and I do have a lot of hope. And I see it in our communities where I see the young people reconnecting with their language and their culture that was stolen away from them. I see it in the average non-Indigenous Canadian getting more educated on Indigenous issues and standing up and saying, that's wrong, we need to fix it. I think education is the key to a lot of the issues that we have, not just on First Nations, but in across the country. And Indigenous people are starting to move in ways that are building our nations back up and getting our rightful place. Non-Indigenous people should not be scared of that, because as an entire group, as a whole, if Indigenous people are doing better, we're all doing better.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, when our communities are thriving and being productive parts of economies, and that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good for everybody.
I always tell, the mayors of our non-Indigenous communities on either side of us is that, the line between the reserve and the municipalities are imaginary. We're all part of the same economic region, right? And it's in our best interest that
if
all of us are
if
healthy
every player in the
and
region is strong, it's a strong region.
exactly,
And that can be
and you get
nationwide.
to be spread out nationwide. Exactly.
well, thanks. Right
Thank
on.
you for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Sundown in the Paris of the prairies, we kings of all the treasures buried. Well, all you have are the rusty breezes pushing around weather vane Jesus. Zippo receives the killer's face. Maybe it's someone standing in a killer's place. 20 years for nothing, that ain't nothing new. Besides, no one's interested in something you didn't do. Kings and pretty things. Wait and see what the morning brings. There's a dream he dreams where the high schools didn't stop. It's museums and we're all locked up and after dark. All the walls are lined, all yellow, gray and sinister, hung with pictures of white privileged prime ministers. Wait, kings and pretty things. Wait and see what the morning brings. Late breaking story on the CBC. The nation whispers that we always knew that he'd go free. Well, you can't be fond of living in the past. there's no way that you're gonna last. Wait, kings and pretty things. Wait and see what the morning brings. Wait, kings and pretty things. Ah, that's what tomorrow brings.
That was awesome, man. That was awesome.